Back to the email, Larry says, quote, also integrating the band is your responsibility. Wave magic wand. Band appears and is integrated. No, it's the responsibility of the musical director. I'm happy to take on that job. I want to, because nobody else is doing it. And you don't need another musical director. I've got the experience. Basically, what the musical director does is he knows what needs to be worked on. And then the way he works on it, he says, turn to page whatever, page this and measure that, and says, okay, Evan, give them their parts. That's what they do. They say, Evan, give them their parts. If I know enough about what needs to be done that I can do it. I don't need a separate director telling me to give them their notes. So I'm happy to take on that job at no extra charge. Just let me do it. The band consisted of a guitarist, a student of yours, Robert, who called me and told me that he couldn't do the job. That Larry had given him my number so that I could somehow make him able to do the job. That's not how many hours, that's how many years of lessons. I don't know anything about this guy other than he says, I can't do the job. Larry says that you're going to make me able to do the job. These private lessons are what Larry is referring to when he says my practice, quote, practice, is on my time, not theirs. He is required to schedule rehearsals, including band rehearsals. If Robert needs extra help and wants to pay for private lessons, fine. But giving private lessons is what I do for a living. He knows this, and I will not be intimidated into doing it for free just because Larry summons all the arrogance he can muster and calls it my practice. Oh wait, he wouldn't have to intimidate me. I had actually offered to do it for free. For that exchange for the $20 1 hour that I didn't need to make up according to our contract. Since at the time there was no bass or drums, Robert and I being the entire band, the band rehearsal would have consisted of just the two of us. We need rehearsals. At least two just with the band, the entire band, or it's a complete waste of time. With adequate time in between for private practice, before joining the cast. Hours of Robert's time was wasted. All the time he spent trying to prepare on his own, and then for at least 2 hours during his only rehearsal. He quit. Of course. He felt terrible being so unprepared. Your other students in the cast were also expressing to me that they felt bad, unprepared. They were obviously unsure of themselves, didn't even know many of their cues. Way to get that explosion of self-expression, Larry. That raw energy. We'll go over that later. I never heard Larry give anyone any cues. On October 24th, 2008, the day before I emailed Larry to let him know that what he was asking for was impossible and he accepted my resignation, on a Friday, less than a week before opening night, 2 students from CHS came in with bass and drums. Larry told me of a guitarist that would be doing the show, but he was not there. One of these students said he had listened to the CD once, the other one, not even that, not even part of it, none of it. Hadn't heard 1 second of it. Neither of them were strong readers. Larry's musical direction, the same as always, and I believe this is a correct quote, we'll just run the show and see what happens. And no mics for your students. What could possibly happen other than one huge, endless train wreck? Larry said, Evan, do what you have to make the music happen, but whatever happens, don't stop unless absolutely necessary. When I asked him to define necessary, he said, if the music is just really bad, that's not a good enough reason to stop. How could I integrate the band under these circumstances? Integrating the band is done by a process that is known as a rehearsal. You don't even stop when something goes wrong. You never even start running the show. You know what needs work, and you work on it. Why is this so difficult for this man to understand? Again, as another of your teachers told me, Larry's thinking that I should just wave my magic wand. The reason this works for Larry is that it doesn't matter to him how bad the music is. Music isn't important. He's just going to say, I'm the one responsible for it. So it's no reflection on him, the only person in the world that matters. Quote from the email. Again, you can read the whole email. I'm giving you every sentence. If you don't have time for Robert, tell him to come to rehearsals and learn the part there. This is in response to my offer to make time for Robert and not charge him or your school. I was asking for him to take this into consideration when trying to figure out when to make up the 1 hour I've missed. The $20 that I'm not required to make up according to our contract. That's what this is all about. Several hours, probably 6 to 12 like I told you. My alternative to that now is to have Robert do the one thing I know he can't do. The reason he called me was to tell me that he would not be able to do something that a professional shouldn't be able to do, to jump in and play a show with no rehearsals. By the way, that can be done, like I say, but it's, when I joined the Dorsey Band, the Tommy Dorsey Band does not rehearse. Boy, that was stressful. I did a show with the Pavilion, Fridays After 5 last year. No rehearsals, just winging it. Yeah, it can be done. But your school had me for 35 hours of rehearsals. This wasn't a situation where we weren't going to rehearse and we were just going to wing it. Quote, please tell me if this is too much for you. It's too much for anyone. It can't be done. Cannot be done. Not to any degree of acceptability. I need you to be low maintenance? My God, I got nothing but thumbs ups from Mr. Waite, who could see how hard I was sweating while Larry sat there and did nothing. I've told Larry how hard I've been sweating at home trying to save his train wreck, learning a show that is supposed to have a full rock band and prepared to do it solo because he hasn't gotten a band together, learning the guitar parts, the bass parts, everything. I've canceled rehearsals with Maxine Jones for this emergency. I've offered hours of free private lessons. This is the appreciation I get? Is it possible that Larry doesn't know how much extra work I have to do if there is no band? On October 6th, I wrote Larry, October 6th, right? 19 days before this whole acceptance of my resignation. On the 6th, I wrote, the sooner the better that I know what the band situation is. If we have no bass and drums, that changes everything I'll be doing. I almost wonder if having the guitar would be just awkward and draw attention to the fact that we don't have the rest of a band. And if we wouldn't be better off with just the piano like we do in rehearsals. At least we know how it's going with that. I think if at all possible, we'll be much better off with bass and drums. I'm sure you agree, and it's just a question of whether it's possible. I'm just trying to get an idea of what I'll be playing. As you can see, my vision was not to have the show with solo piano, but with a band, but to bring them in piecemeal, not even at the same time, less than a week before opening night, not knowing the show at all, not prepared in the slightest, not having even heard it, and not being strong readers, and not allow us to rehearse is ridiculous in that many ways. Besides all that, Peter and I, both at different times listed as the musical director, knew there was no time, and since there were no mics, it was a no-brainer. No band at this stage of the game. It's too late. Say both of his musical directors.